Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni just said something terrifying. At a private Christmas meeting, she told her staff, "This year was hard, but don't worry, the next one will be worse." When a G7 leader says that, it is not a joke. It is a signal. People at her level don't read Twitter for news. They read intelligence reports. And if they're publicly saying it gets worse, it means danger is no longer just a prediction. It is a plan. The world has accepted a deadly lie. That war is just background noise. That negotiations are just a polite word for surrender. We are watching nations trade human lives like discounts in a supermarket. But who is responsible? Who actually broke the world in 2025? Today, we are naming names. Here are the 6 leaders who want World War III. Number 6, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran. People in the West still talk about Iran as a separate Middle East story. In 2025, that separation collapsed. Iran became a supplier of modern war. One weapon, in particular, changed the rhythm of the conflict in Europe: mass-produced attack drones. Russia has used Iranian Shahid drones against Ukraine at scale. Night after night, waves of them hit cities, energy infrastructure, and civilian targets. This is not a one-off delivery. It evolved into an enduring pipeline. The power of these drones sits in a brutal equation: cheap mass plus constant pressure. A relatively low-cost drone forces Ukraine to burn through expensive air defense interceptors, maintain permanent readiness, and live under continuous attrition. Even when a drone strike does not decide a battle, it extends the war, wears down defenses, and normalizes daily terror. At the same time, Iran runs a second lever, keeping the Middle East at a control boil, using proxies, threats, and escalation as bargaining chips. That instability hits Europe through energy prices, shipping routes, migration pressure, and domestic polarization. And when societies feel exhausted, the demand rises for quick deals and easy exits. So Iran delivers a double effect in 2025. Weapons that stretch the war in Europe, regional instability that pushes the West toward fatigue and compromise. Bottom line, when a single strategy exports both instability and weapons, the world moves toward a higher-risk baseline, systematically, year after year. Number 5, Narendra Modi, India. This is where moral lectures fail. India plays its own game: growth, energy security, social stability. That is rational. This ranking is about consequences. One consequence matters above all: large-scale purchases of Russian oil and the global adaptation to a war economy. That adaptation reduces pressure, keeps revenue flowing, and makes a long war financially survivable. Here is the uncomfortable reality of 2025. The world economy learned to live with war. Supply chains reroute. Traders build new corridors. Middlemen appear. Discounts become incentives. And once major economies show that prosperity can continue alongside a major invasion, the war loses part of its price tag. When war gets cheaper, it becomes easier to sustain. And when it becomes easier to sustain, it turns into a policy option, something leaders can manage rather than something the system must stop. India is not pro-Russia. India is pro-India. Yet in a system shaped by big players, pro-self can still mean one thing: more time for the war machine to breathe. Bottom line, when major economies normalize trade around war, war stops being prohibitively expensive. Number 4, Kim Jong Un, North Korea. North Korea looks like an exotic dictatorship until you treat it as a model. In 2025, Pyongyang became a symbol of a new kind of impunity. A regime can live outside the rules and sell risk as influence. This model damages global security in 2 ways. First, it accelerates militarization in East Asia. Higher tension pulls U.S. attention, assets, and budgets toward the Pacific. Every extra crisis front stretches the same finite resources. The more theaters burn, the more likely someone somewhere gets pushed into a quick deal simply because the system cannot carry everything at once. Second, North Korea sends a message that many regimes hear clearly. Sanctions can be survived, threats can be monetized, rules can be ignored while the world adjusts. Once that barrier drops, the danger multiplies. It stops being one rogue state. It becomes a contagious logic. Bottom line, when threats become currency, the world starts paying for temporary calm with long-term concessions. Number 3. Xi Jinping, China. By 2025, one fact became clearer. Without China's support structure, Russia could not sustain this war in its current form for so long. This is not romance. It is systems engineering. Sanctions hurt most when a country loses access to markets, logistics, technology, and finance. A neighboring economic superpower can soften that hit by offering alternative routes, buyers, components, and diplomatic cover. China's objective is bigger than Ukraine. Beijing wants Russia strong enough to keep the West busy and divided, so American and European resources stay tied down in Europe, rather than being fully redirected toward China's containment. That logic turns a European war into a line item in global rivalry, a strategic balance sheet, where human cost becomes just another variable. Bottom line, helping Russia avoid defeat keeps the war alive as a tool of global power management. Number 2, Donald Trump, United States. Trump appears here for one reason. In 2025, his approach made one principle fashionable again: peace at any price. It sounds humane. In geopolitics, it often translates into something else, freezing the result of force and calling it peace. That creates a precedent with a long shadow: aggression pays. And once aggression pays, the next aggressor learns the formula: hold out, ride out sanctions, wait for fatigue, then demand a deal. For Eurasia, this is a direct instruction manual. The continent is full of disputed borders, historical narratives, dependency chains, and gray zones. A world trained to accept fatigue as an argument for concessions invites pressure everywhere. Bottom line, fast peace can become surrender in a diplomatic suit. Number 1, Vladimir Putin, Russia. Putin is the center of gravity. He made war and revisionism a normal instrument of state policy. Push with force, drag time, fracture unity, weaponize fatigue, and then bargain for recognition of what was taken. In 2025, that method kept working because it relies on psychology as much as tanks. It bets on exhaustion. It bets on political divisions inside alliances. It bets on the moment when people start saying, "This is just how the world is now." The most dangerous part is the signal. A signal that land grabs can be packaged as history. That borders can be negotiated after violence, not before. That coercion can run through trade, transit, migration, and information alongside military pressure. And when the world responds with, "Let's just settle this," it validates the signal. Bottom line, once revisionism becomes normal, everyone's security erodes. If you remove the names, one picture remains. 2025 accelerated a world where strength counts as an argument, fatigue becomes a weapon, and negotiations often mean formalizing pressure rather than restoring order. And that hits Eurasia first, because the cost of mistakes in this region is always higher. Too many corridors, too many fault lines, too many powers packed too closely together. Now tell me your list. Who belongs in this top 6? And who is the most controversial pick? Back it with reasoning, not emotion.